So let's go ahead and dive in and get started with exploring our Hotspot image. This session is for our advanced users. And just a quick recap of what BookWidgets is. BookWidgets is that complete content creation and evaluation tool that we all use in our classrooms, and it will really help us engage our students from the beginning of the lesson to the end. Of course, we have our widget library, our integration with our learning management systems, Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, and so many more, the ability to monitor students' progress live, and of course, the importance of our reporting dashboard, which has all of the statistics and the information we need so that we can continue learning with our students. So let's dive right into what is a hotspot image. So a hotspot image is an interactive image. It is a multimedia image. So we have a big image in the background, and then we have spots where we will direct our students to learning activities. There are infinite possibilities when we look at what we can do inside BookWidgets and the hotspot image. Of course, pop-ups will appear, just like I showed you, anytime you click on those images. Today, I'm going to go through and show with you all sorts of examples for using a hotspot image to spark your creativity, how you too can create a hotspot in just a few tips and in just a few steps, and some of my tips and tricks to help you out. So let's get started with a preview of some of the hotspot activities for all grade levels. And while I may not highlight every activity that you see in the slide deck today, everyone will receive a copy of the slide deck, which has all of the widget activities in that you can then duplicate and customize as you'd like to see fit. I'd like to go ahead and get started with our preschool images. So let's first start with Count With Me. Right? Our preschool students are learning how to count, what their numbers will be. And you'll see here that I can click on one of the numbers, 1, and I will have that sound. Let me just make sure. Yep, I just wanted to make sure that I had my sound on. So the students will click an image. 5. They will hear the number, and then they can practice the number. You'll see that this image is this hotspot image ends with down here, Count With Me, which will take the students out to a video.
Okay, class.
And
Who
the
would like to
video
do
will help them
problem 3 on
understand those numbers. So you can see that we have taken a background image, added hotspots on top of it, and then guided our students to learn. Let's take a look at another preschool example, the surprise calendar. In the surprise calendar, the students have a surprise at the end of each week. You can see that the surprise calendar is highlighted here. And for our younger students to continue that learning through the weekend, through when classes aren't in session, is a really great idea. And I want to highlight here that we've created a crossword puzzle. And for our young learners who might not yet be ready to read, we've used emojis. So you have your sample emojis here inside that crossword puzzle to keep your students active and involved even when class isn't in session. Let's take a look at some primary examples. The primary examples for primary learners are going to be a little bit more involved. And if you've been following the Awareness Day widgets, you will see here the haiku that we created for the Haiku Awareness Day. One of the things that I really enjoy about this widget is first you will see instructions. So instructions are a new addition to many of our widgets. And when I say new, I don't mean like just within the past month, but a fairly new addition to so many of our widgets to really provide instructions for those students. So here I have the instructions. And in this widget, to really help the students understand the learning path, I've numbered the hotspots. So my students will understand that they need to navigate to the hotspots in order to complete the activity. So we have the students here on the haiku where it says start here. And when they click, it takes us out to a split whiteboard activity where students learn about haikus, and then they have some questions that they interact with. So a hotspot image isn't just about placing things on a board, but it's about creating a complete digital lesson so that your students have everything contained in one place. I don't know about you, but anytime I tell my students to go somewhere else, they get distracted. So anytime I can keep my students contained inside BookWidgets, it's always better for them. Here's an example of a web pop-up. So in the past, I might have said to my students, let's go to this website, but now you see there's no distractors. My students are totally focused on just this website. And once again, while I may not click through every one of the hotspot images, what I'm providing for you today is some inspiration, some ways to sort of start thinking outside the box and explore your creativity. I really hope that if you create a hotspot image, you'll share it with me or you'll share it in our Facebook teachers group, because I was just saying I learned something from BookWidgets users every day. Here's another example of a widget from World Kindness Day. And once again, because this is a elementary style widget, I've numbered the activities for my students. We even have a bingo sheet here where on World Kindness Day or on a day to be kind, students can mark off any activities that they do and try to get a bingo. And I love this little button up here. Return right back to my hotspot so I don't get lost. My students don't get lost. There's no trouble with that navigating through the hotspot widget. Now, of course, who doesn't love a game? And my colleague Lucy has created this game just in time for Easter. And man, is this widget filled with so much. First of all, you're going to notice, where do I click? Where's the numbers? In this instance, the hotspot links are hidden. But because you guys are here, I'm going to give you the helpful hint. When you scroll around, when you get the little finger, when you get your hand, that tells you that's where the hidden image is. So here on start, I click and I get my instructions on how the game works. I can come over here to my battle cards and I will be guided to my cards where I will learn what I have to do. Oh no, skip a turn. Look at this. Use the randomness spinner to roll your dice. I know your brains are already spinning and we're only on our fourth widget. So really start thinking about how you can be creative in the activities that you do. From one of our ambassadors, we have this awesome primary education storyboard widget. Sometimes we want to help our students get started with writing. They need a little setup to really have some creative activities. And Lillian has an awesome hotspot widget here. We're going to start by rolling the dice. And when we roll the dice, we get a number. And the number here will tell us the column that we need to use in order to create our story. Now you'll also notice at the top that we have this little I. And the little I are the instructions. Roll the dice to generate your setting, characters, and the prop for your story. And I love here how the characters, we have good and bad. If we wanted to move this up to the secondary level, we could say antagonists and protagonists. So now that I've rolled a 6, I know that I'm going to be working from this column. I think this is such a genius way of helping students have a little bit of choice and a lot of creativity as they work in creating a storyboard. And of course, we have to have some fun. So let's celebrate Pizza Day. Here is our National Pizza Day activity where we have the secret history of pizza. Will take us out to this hotspot to a website. We can also play a math game. Here's our
We started
instruction.
our design company while we were still in school,
which is not how it's usually done.
but that motivated us.
Chase for Business was by our side
And
to
then,
build along with us.
sorry
From
about
banking
that.
to payment
Need
acceptance
to
to credit
stop the
cards,
sound
all in
on
one
my
place. Plus, they're right around.
stop the sound on my video, and then our pizza facts. And this, of course, is a frame sequence widget. So I want you to sort of take a step outside, maybe something that's familiar to you, and really think about what are the different kinds of widget templates. There's 40 of them that I can choose from. Maybe I want to use something that's different than a worksheet or a quiz, and try to integrate a spinner or a web pop-up, a video pop-up inside what you're doing with your hotspot image. I really love using sound. As many of you know, I teach world languages, bilingual and world languages. And my colleague Kate made this great math activity that shows us fun with sound. Let's take a look at what she has here. So we have our directions, which equals 100. So I'm going to say 19 times 10. And I get a sound. No, that's not 100. Now I come to 10 by 10 and I get yes. So we can have positive and not so positive integration of sound in our BookWidgets activities. This is so much fun and a really great way that you also can integrate sound into what you do. Let's take a look at another look at an example with sound. So here's our you're wrong, you're right. And then when we click on the image, we hear whether we're right or wrong. I'm not sure. Are the sounds playing? Oh, I'm going to come back to this to make sure that I let you hear those sounds playing. We have our music guitars and our songbirds. I'll make sure that I come back to this as we near the end of our session, so I can make sure that I demo these for you, because I really want you to be able to hear the sound in these activities. Let's move on to our secondary education students. So with our secondary education students, we might have some activities that are a little bit more evolved, a little bit more intricate. And while these examples may not all be in English, all of us here in this seminar, our first language is in English. And I really want to show you some examples here to provide you inspiration and thoughts, ways that you can be creative in your educator practice using some of these widgets. So let's start with history, and let's take a look at Charles Darwin. So immediately you can see that this widget has a lot more in this hotspot image than perhaps a primary or a preschool widget. And in this instance, I don't have a hidden hotspot, I have my marker. So you could see on each of these pictures, I have a marker. My students are going to click on the marker. I will give them some information, what they will do or what they will do next, or what activity they will need to complete. And they can navigate around this widget. Here's an example of a video that is embedded directly inside that hotspot. And once again, just a way to really digitize that total classroom experience for you. Also, when we take a hotspot and we embed these widgets, these activities in this way, it doesn't necessarily have to be a widget. It can be a video, it could be an activity offline. I think it really helps us to chunk learning for our students. We know that when we have a lot of material, for example, this material on Charles Darwin, if we chunk it into sections, it will make it easier for our students to understand. And of course, allowing our students to be engaged in the learning. I love this activity on ancient Rome. There's only one spot on it, so I must have to start here. And when I click on this widget, this hotspot inside this hotspot widget, I can see that I'm being guided to an activity. The really great thing about the way that this activity is set up is before you can move on, you must get the password. If you don't have the password, you can't continue the lesson. So by providing a password in this hotspot widget, it really requires our students to ensure that they have fully completed the activity before they move on to the next part of the lesson, that they've really gone over the lesson. So many times I say to my students, all right, dive in, let's get started. And 5 minutes later, somebody says, I'm done. I said, there's no way that you could have finished in that amount of time. It was so easy, Mrs. Place. So now I'm going to stick a password on that lesson to make sure that they move through each activity. It's sort of like our version of an escape room. Keep those students engaged, organized, and active in their reading. Now, you might see Tour de France and think we're going to take a bicycle tour. But in this instance, on the Tour de France, we're really going to make a trip around France. And when here I have my image, my hotspot image, so we can see my markers here. So we can see that I've already had a hidden marker, a label marker, and now an image marker. So when I click on the image marker, I will be taken out to an activity where my students watch a video, learn about this section of France, and then answer the questions. Using that navigation arrow, they come right back to my hotspot image and are able to select a new image, a new marker. In this instance, the teacher has not indicated that there's a specific learning path, so the students have that idea of choice. And when students have an idea of choice in their learning, they're more engaged and they're more active to really retain that information. This is a great activity that you could use for history. I also think that you would use this, as I've said here, in world languages. Now, are you ready for a clue style game? We have a mystery to solve. And in this hotspot activity, we have 12 embedded links for our students, and we have to solve the mystery inside this clue game. So students will click on each of the images. They will be given information, something that they need to do in order to solve the mystery. Look at this, it looks so real. We have a help button here. We have some information that we see that it's locked. Oh my gosh, I have to get the 6-character code in order to retrieve the message. So once again, we see hidden hotspots. We're going to try and find all of those hidden hotspots, get the information that we need. Oh, here's a puzzle I have to solve. So get all of the information I need to get that 6-character code and place it into my mystery so that I can solve whatever my mystery is here. And think of all of the ways that you can gamify your learning. Shameless plug, we have lots of webinars coming up. Make sure you check all of them out so that you can amp up your learning as well. Here I have the same activity, and the reason that I'm going to show you the same activity is because I want to remind you that once you've created an activity, it's super easy to duplicate it and then adjust whatever you want to adjust so that your students can complete the activity. This one happened
La
to be
laitue.
in Spanish, but now I can also, that one was French, excuse me. And now I can also open up the same activity. I have the same image, my same hidden places,
Lettuce,
and now I have it
lechuga,
in Spanish.
la lechuga,
So I have the same image. Remember, it's about working smarter, not harder. You can duplicate an activity and then update the language. I'm a Latin teacher, so I have to include my ancient Roman villa. Here are my instructions with all of my Latin words. So my students have a really hard time understanding all the different parts of a villa in ancient Rome. So I've included all of the Latin words for them. And each of these label, this is a label pop-up. Each of these will have information for them. It could be text. It could be a web page. So we can embed whatever it is that we would like inside our activities. And then my students end with a review that will help them be successful on their assessment. I want you to start thinking about how you might be able to use all of these hotspot activities in your classroom. Here's another really great contribution from another one of our BookWidgets users. This, once again, is all about student choice. In this instance, the students click on the Start button, and they're taken to a widget with directions. I absolutely love this idea. I get a little preview of Coraline. And if I want to find out what happens next, I get the instructions from the teacher. Here's Miss Peregrine, same thing. I get the instructions from the teacher. I've made my choice. Once I've made my choice, I'm going to come back to my hotspot, and I chose Coraline. So now I will follow the activities all for Coraline. Choice, this is really a great path, a great way of showing how to create a choice board. I hope that you're able to sort of take this information in and say, oh, wow, this is how I could use a choice board like this in my class. Everybody loves to go to the Globe Theater. I had the opportunity when I was traveling to visit the Globe Theater, but not everybody can visit the Globe Theater in person, so we've got a virtual tour for you. Once again, you see I have a label pop-up and an image pop-up. Both of them will guide you to any activity. It's just about the way that you want to guide your students. And if you haven't checked out this virtual tour of the Globe Theater, it's right here. You can navigate all around the Globe Theater and learn all about all the different parts of the globe and really see it. And then we can come back to our widget and explore what we saw right here. The Globe Theater. Make sure you check out the resume writing and the 7 Wonders of the World widget. I will tell you, the 7 Wonders of the World widget uses TikTok videos. So if you're a fan of TikTok, make sure you check out both of those widgets. As I said, we don't have time to take a look at all of them, but I had so many ideas that I wanted to share with you. I'm including them here in our slide deck. Let's take a little bit of a look at some science, and in this instance, biology, the human cell. Here we have our markers. I click on my marker. I'm directed to a video that will help me learn more about these parts of the cell. I want you to think a little bit about how can I change up my learning? Do you like to flip your learning? Do you like your students to watch a video at home? We don't need to watch a video in class all the time. So maybe you could use a hotspot image to flip your learning, direct the students to watch some videos at home, and then continue the conversation in class. This example of the human body is the first example I've shown you of how I've resized an image. And when we dive into create our own widget, I'm going to show you how to resize images. But this is the first image that I have that you can drag. And you can not only drag, but you can zoom in and zoom out on the image itself. This is the background image. When I zoom in on the background image, I see my hotspot. I click on that, and now this brings into perspective for me. If I were zoomed out, this is a little bit smaller. So this is a great way for you to really identify places that you really want to hone in on and let your students see. I'm going to show you how to do this pan and zoom kind of background image, because I think there are many times where it will be really helpful for you. There are different image sizing options that we will be taking a look at. That's coming up soon. There's so many ways to use a hotspot image. So let's take a look at this miscellaneous category. I'm going to start with 2 games. I love the gamification of learning or game-based learning. And in this instance, we have a Monopoly game. You notice right away that this is a WebQuest widget. So we had our hotspot with our background hotspot image with a link to a WebQuest. Look inside this WebQuest. the teacher has created a Monopoly board with our spinner and moving our pieces around the board. This, to me, is just really an awesome way of gamifying our learning. And there's a scorecard, so you can keep track of your progress in the game. So in this instance, the teacher used a worksheet with a multi-select picture, so you can keep track of all of your property. I think that this is absolutely a wonderful way of using a web quest inside a hotspot image. And the same thing, the same educator did the same thing with Trivial Pursuit. So here's our web quest. Let's hop on out. We have our rules of the game, our Trivial Pursuit board. We can move our pieces. The question comes up for us to answer. We have to do some matching here. We get our score, and then come right back to our web quest and mark off on our scorecard when we have completed an activity. So you could highlight by selecting or deselecting what you have won in the Trivial Pursuit game. I am amazed at the creativity of our BookWidgets users. I hope that you really take a look at everything that they've created, as well as the BookWidgets team. I know that many of you reached out to me about the activities in our Women's History Month calendar. The BookWidgets crew all got together to create activities, one a day, for the month of March to celebrate all of the women who tell our stories. This is an example, once again, of a hidden hotspot. And we have for every school day, Monday through Friday, an activity for students to do. So for example, on March 8th, we highlighted 8 female artists in our new video quiz widget. A really fun day, March 17th, we highlighted Irish American, Irish Brazilian people. And look at this great idea on a flashcard. I know we're here for widgets, but this flashcard has the audio where you can hear the story of the highlighted woman. And the really great thing about all of these widgets, the Monopoly, Trivial Pursuit, Parts of the Body, even our widget here for Women's History Month, you can reuse them. These are not just a one and done kind of activity. You're able to reuse your widgets from year to year. You're able to update them and add or take away anything that you would like. So if you have a unique way of using a calendar to organize material, please make sure you share it in our Facebook group or on Twitter or even here in the chat. Share your ideas with the other people here so that we can also be creative with you. Sometimes the day is long and we just need to take a brain break. For our primary students, we have this awesome activity where the students have to find all of the clothes so that Santa can get dressed and get out for his busy night. And if you're ready for a challenge, what does every one of our students say at least once a day? Where's my phone? So it's up to you to find out where the phone is in this hotspot image. I'll tell you, this one's really tough. So maybe don't try it now. Maybe take some time later on today so that you can check out and find where's my phone. So now we're going to head out live and we're going to create a hotspot image on our own. So I'm going to show you how to create a hotspot image in just a few steps. I hope that you're inspired to work with me and create something really interactive and fun. We will go over creating a title, adding the background image and all of those options that come with it, adding the hotspot input and all of the options that come with that, as well as providing the instructions for our students that you saw on many of the hotspots. And we're going to navigate out to bookwidgets.com, log into our account, and here I am at my landing page. Now I'm going to select create a widget, and you know that you can select either from the home page or from your widgets. I'm going to select directly from the home page, create a widget, and I need to find my hotspot image. My hotspot image is in my favorite location where all the pictures and videos are. And here it is. So we're going to go ahead and select hotspot image. If you've attended any of my webinars before, you know my hint is always work from top to bottom, left to right. I'm going to create a fun widget on penguins. So I'm going to go ahead and give my widget a title. Of course, you know, description and about are optional. I use the about section all the time to provide notes to myself. Remember that the about section is only visible to you. Now we need to select our background image. So I'm going to come right over here to the center of my widget editor. And from the pull-down menu, I have three choices. Choose an image, import from Google Drive, or find an image online. I'm all about finding something that's easy. I don't need to copy and paste or save and then remember where I saved it. So I'm going to go ahead and look for an image of a penguin. This is our Pixabay picture library. All of these images are already licensed for you and ready to use. So you don't have to worry about the licensing on any of these images. I'm going to go ahead and pick my penguin. And this is where I want to show you the image resize options. So we have 5 different options here, and I want to highlight them for you. So I'm just going to work from top to bottom so that we can look at those resize options. So here's my first option where I don't resize anything at all. Okay, that looks pretty good. Maybe I want to use that, but let me see what my other options look like. Cover entire area and keep aspect ratio. No, the bottom is cut off. And if I put then a hotspot down there at the bottom, my students might not see it. Cover entire picture and keep aspect ratio. So just a little change. Cover entire area, cover entire picture. You just hop up to that preview and take a look at it. Oh, I love this. Now you might notice that there's a little black on either side. That's the transparent part of the image. So if you don't like that black, you're going to work with these options here to get the picture exactly like you like it. Oh no, that spread my penguin too fat. So I definitely don't like that one. And do you remember when I was talking about the human body where the image was draggable? This would be for a large image. I don't really think I need it for this image. So for me, I think that the third image was the best option. So I'm going to go with this image, which has those transparent markings on the side. Now that I have my image selected, and it's all up to you, how you resize that image is totally up to you. So if you use that draggable, resizable image, I do want to highlight one thing for you while we're here. You get this additional background that shows up, and it says background image start position. This means all of your students will start in the exact same place. So what you want to do, only if you choose the draggable and resizable, is you get this marker and you can drag, click exactly where you would like that marker to be. And you can make it as big or as small as you want. So if you want all of your students to start in that upper left, now let me show you what that would look like. When the student view there, it's honed in on that section, and then I would use my minus. Now I can drag and zoom with my finger or with a mouse or with the touchpad. So I use this if I have a large image like a map in my history class. For me right now, I'm going to use that third image. Now remember, I always say work from top to bottom, left to right, and follow the blue bar. So we need to add some hotspots. This first hotspot that we will be creating is called a text. So we saw examples of all of these hotspots. I'm going to create a text pop-up. Once I select my text pop-up, I need to say what the text is. And notice all of the rich text formatting features here. So I'm going to remind us that this is an example of a text pop-up. Maybe I want to change the color of this word. So I'm going to come down and change the color. And maybe I want to make this bold for everyone. So I can format anything that I would like here. Now I need to choose my marker. Remember, we have 3 markers. The hidden marker, which is really challenging, especially if you have younger learners. The image marker, and the label marker. Once again, this is all up to you. I'm going to select a hidden marker this time. Now that I've selected the hidden marker, I need to place the position on my background image. My penguin is my background image. And remember, you can merely click. You don't have to grab it and drag it and then worry about it getting this box being resized. So you could just click wherever you would like that image. So now I've clicked where I would like my image. I'm going to go ahead and select done, but I'm not quite finished in setting up my widget. I now have a location preference. My location preference is 5 choices: left, right, top, bottom, or centered. Above and below is the language that's used in the widget when you're creating it. So let's see what this would look like. If I choose right of my hotspot, here is my hidden hotspot. There's my text formatting that pops up. Notice that the pop-up is to the right. Now let me just change this to left. Now we have it. Oh, did I not change left? Oh yeah, left. Now let's change to below. So you could see that the position changes just a little bit depending on where you position your pop-up. So here's my pop-up: left, right, top, bottom. And I can also choose center. So centered directly over the hotspot. And once again, all of these customization options are just for you to make your work engaging for your students. We can add another hotspot, and we can do that 2 ways: by clicking the blue bar at the bottom, which is the easiest. But if for some reason you want to see everything all set up, you can use that general back arrow, which will take you back to your general tab, and click add a hotspot. I'm going to go ahead and add a video pop-up here. And in my video pop-up, you will see that I have 2 choices: choose a file or import from Google Drive. This is not to upload a video, for example, from YouTube. That movie is going to be uploaded. And I want to tell you, when you choose this pop-up, there's a 10 meg limit. So the video cannot be very large. I can also change the size of the screen of my video, but let's take a look at it right now. Oh, wait, I forgot all of the other things that I need to do. Let me give an image, getting too far ahead of myself. And I'm going to go ahead and use this image to the right of my hotspot. Let's place that image. Here's my bullseye. I'm going to put my bullseye right up here in the upper right. Now I can preview. So excited to show you guys my video. I got ahead of myself. Now I'm going to click. Look at this. My video pops up directly here. Once again, I like to keep my students contained. I don't like them going anywhere. Now, if I want to change the size of the screen that the video popped up in, I can put different parameters in here. So maybe I want to choose 200 by 400. Click. Oh no, that's way too narrow. Now I do have my pop out here, but I do want to tell you that there's so many different customization tools here that you can use. Let's try another option. Click. There we go. I like that one a little bit better. So it's totally up to you how you want to get that video. Now let's say that you have a video stored on your Google Drive. Once I was in my Google Drive, you see I selected that video. the video is going to be uploaded just like if I had the video on my desktop. And now, same way, there's my video. If you're sharing BookWidgets inside a learning management system, using these hotspot and all of the hotspot images are a great way to keep your students contained and really actively engaged. Let's go ahead and do a web link. Now, a web link will navigate to a URL. So I'm going to want to have my URL available. I could choose my hotspot, embed my hotspot, and that will take my students directly out to a URL. So if I have a YouTube video or something that I wanted to share with my students, then this is where I could embed that URL for them. Since I'm here, I want to show you that it says select a widget. This is a great idea. Remember all of those hotspot images we saw with a widget. So I know that I created an activity on penguins. So I'm going to go ahead and reuse my widget. Now you'll notice when I had the web link URL, we have the open link in another tab. I don't need to check that off here because what does it say? It doesn't apply when I have links to other widgets. Let's go ahead and do a label. Let's add what this is. I'm just going to call it a widget so we remember. We are also going to give our position. Place our position on our image. I'm going to leave it right there in the center of my penguin. Take a look. That easily and quickly. I've embedded my widget. I'm good to go. And don't forget this wonderful little back arrow that will take your students directly back to the hotspot image. One other widget that I'd like to add you, I know that we're coming up short on time, but one other image I'd like to show you here is the audio pop-up. The audio pop-up is a great way to use sound in your widgets. Once again, when we select the audio pop-up, we have three choices. Choose a file. That means that you've recorded a file on your computer and you're going to upload it. Import a file from Google Drive or record. I'm going to choose a file that I've saved already on my computer. So I'm going to choose my file. You notice that my file is an MP3 file. Open it up. My file is imported. Once again, I still need to give my information. So I'm going to use a label. I'm going to position my file. Let me bring my file over here. Click done. Put in what this is. And let's take a look at what it looks like. Here's my audio file. And whatever I've recorded will appear. In this instance, it's the sounds of the penguins. So everything ready to go for my students. There are so many great things that you can do when you're creating your hotspot images. I just really want to make sure that you feel comfortable and you feel good in creating those images. One of the things that I love when I'm looking for sounds is to go to a website called Free Sound Library. And Free Sound Library has all sorts of sounds that you can download for free. So here we have a computer sound, ding, a school bell, and there are so many different sounds that you can use from Free Sound Library. We'll make sure that you get that link so that if you want to take advantage of free sounds, you can do it as well. Now, once I've added all of my background image, resize, added all of my pop-ups, I need to have my directions for my students. Once again, you'll see I have my rich text formatting, and I'm going to give my students the directions. I could let my students know that some of the images are hidden. I could let my students know that there are 8 images that they need to find. But when you complete those instructions, they always pop up the very first thing. So they're there for the students to read. Of course, we know that sometimes our students may not read them, but they are there for our students to see so that they know exactly what's expected of them. That's right here, instructions at the bottom of setting up our hotspot image. Now I'm going to go ahead and return to our slide deck for just a quick moment. Great. So here we are. I just want to quickly review with you what we did. In creating a hotspot image, we learned how to add a title, add a background. We took a look at all the different hotspots. And of course, we want to remember to make sure that we include those instructions for our students. I gave you some tips and tricks as you were creating. For example, how to edit your background image, set the start position for span and zoom, the 6 types of options that you have for your pop-up, how to adjust the frame for a video or a web pop-up, and of course, that all important text back button when you open a widget inside a hotspot. We talked about the 3 types of widget markers, or excuse me, hotspot markers, none, which is that hidden hotspot, the image and the label, and the 5 pop-up positions. Now I want to show you how you can combine a hotspot inside a web quest or a web quest inside a hotspot. We already took a look at the Monopoly and the Clue game. Those were examples of a web quest inside a widget. A web quest inside a hotspot. Here is a Halloween escape game. Once again, we have our activities here. So it was a web quest. Now I'm going to go into my web quest, and inside my web quest, here is my embedded hotspot. So in the Monopoly game and the Trivia Pursuit game, hotspot that took us to a web quest. In this game, the web quest has hotspots embedded in it. And then don't forget, in our Clue game, we talked about all of those hidden activities. So have you ever played Clue? Here's my game board. Here's the living room. When I come to the living room, this takes me out to a widget, and here are all of my hidden clues inside the living room. These clues have that marker to make it easy for the students to find all of the different rooms, and each room has an activity or activities that the students must do in order to gain information to find out who will be in that mystery. I'm not sure if you know, but we sort of have variations on hotspots. For example, here in our classroom rules, this is not a hotspot. This is we have like a hotspot embedded here, but this is an image carousel. So these are memes about the opening of school classroom rules. Remember, an image carousel is one image that you use the arrows to navigate from, but we have a variation of a hotspot image here. So I definitely wanted to show you what this looks like so that you have some other ideas. Here's one that I created myself on the coral reef, and I love this activity on the coral reef. I have my beautiful images. I have text at the bottom, but do you see hiding all the way over here is a link to Google Map. So I have some images, some links embedded inside my Google Map. But wait, I can make it even more fancy by embedding some links right here. So an image carousel is an interesting take on using the idea of hotspot images. Of course, if you're like me, you may not be super creative. So I really want to highlight for you that you can use Canva. Teachers can log into Canva and create an account for free. And you can create your own game boards and your own images in Canva. This game board was not created. It's an image that was in Canva. And then we just add our hidden hotspots here and get our students ready to play the game. I did the same thing with classroom rules. This image was taken from Canva, and I have my hidden hotspots here for my students to learn about the classroom rules. And if you're looking for those ready-made backgrounds, definitely check out Canva and all that they have to offer. And then finally, if you have vendor materials, textbook materials, materials that came with a purchase from your school, I want to remind you that you can embed links to those materials in an image. So here you see a teacher has online activities that she wants the students to complete, and you can embed those online activities directly inside a hotspot image with BookWidgets. Don't forget, everything here is totally customizable for you and ready for you to use. I hope that you were inspired by my hotspot images, and I hope that you found some really great ideas to get you started